When you discover fairy tales are lies, the pain cuts deeper for having believed them in the first place. That's how Iris's story starts. The day the tax collector comes to their cottage is the day fairy tales prove to be lies. She'd clung to foolish hope. Perhaps a kind fairy would help her one day. Perhaps her empty womb would quicken with life. Perhaps the shame of her barrenness would transform into joy. But hope was treacherous. When it's finally crushed, you suffer not just the pain of your circumstances, but the ache of having dared to dream at all. The tax collector's silver eyes shone in the dim light, his huge body blocking the doorway. Iris watched from the shadows as her father held Leanna tight, protecting her younger sister as if the beta wolf might grab her. "The taxes have tripled this season," the beta's voice rumbled, "by order of Alpha King Thaddeus." Her father shook with fear. Everyone in their village was terrified of the king. Stories spread throughout the kingdom about his cruelty. Even other wolves feared him. Humans were basically property. And Iris, born to shifter parents, but unable to shift, was considered even worse than human. Her family's shame twice over. First for being wolfless, then for being barren, cast off by her mate after 6 years of failed attempts to conceive. "My lord," her father's voice cracked. "We've had a poor harvest. If you could grant us more time." "You know the penalty for failing to pay. The king requires new slaves. This one will do nicely." His eyes fixed on Leanna. Everyone knew what happened to King Thaddeus's slaves. They disappeared into his dark castle and were never seen again. "But she's promised to be mated," their father protested. "She has a strong wolf. She'll bear powerful cubs." He stopped, gaze darting to where Iris stood in the shadows. "Take my eldest daughter instead." The beta sneered. "You offer the king a defective half-breed?" "She's already proven useless for breeding," her father said, the words hitting Iris like physical blows. "No loss to the pack." "But what gain to the king?" "She tells stories," Leanna blurted out. "Beautiful stories." How many times had they mocked her storytelling? Called it a shameful human habit? Yet now they offered it up like a prize. "Show him, Iris." Her father grabbed her arm, shoving her to her knees. At least as a slave, she thought bitterly. No one would expect her to bear children she could never give them. "I would be honored to serve Alpha King Thaddeus in any way he wishes, my lord." The beta studied her for a long time. Finally, he nodded. "Very well. The defective one will do." As they left her village behind, Iris didn't look back. She'd learned long ago that stories were the only escape that mattered. Tonight, in her cell, she'd imagine a story where her family saved her. Where being different didn't mean being broken. Where a woman's worth wasn't measured by the children she could bear. She was good at making up happy endings, even if they never came true. When the sun rose, Iris caught her first glimpse of King Thaddeus's castle. Towering white marble towers shone in the sunlight, more stunning than anything she could have imagined. Yet its flawless appearance made her uneasy. Breathtaking beauty often hid dark secrets. They entered through a servant's entrance, going deep underground to a cold stone chamber where 5 other girls huddled together, all looking scared. "Strip!" a stern woman with gray hair and amber wolf eyes commanded. They hesitated. "You're the king's property now. What you thought was yours, including your dignity, belongs to him." One by one, they removed their clothes. Iris moved methodically, refusing to show her humiliation. They were doused with ice-cold water, scrubbed with coarse soap until their skin felt raw. "The king won't have dirty village filth in his castle," the gray-haired woman said, "though I doubt any of you will last the month." They were given plain gray shifts and instructed on castle rules. "Tonight," the woman's voice dropped, "one of you will serve the king's special guest. The king himself will select which of you has the honor." They were led to a small chamber, told to line up and keep their eyes downcast. "His Majesty, Alpha King Thaddeus," a voice announced. The marble floor seemed to vibrate with each step he took. The air grew heavy, charged with power that pressed against Iris's skin. "The new arrivals, Your Majesty, for your special guests' requirements." "They're all cowering," came a deep voice that resonated through her bones. How tiresome. Something in that voice, its casual power, its inherent command, made it impossible for Iris not to look. Despite her fear, curiosity won out. Slowly, she raised her eyes. Alpha King Thaddeus wasn't merely handsome, he was sublime. Broader than her village's alpha, with high cheekbones that could cut glass, and lips that held a natural curve suggesting perpetual mockery. But his eyes, something ancient and feral, lived in those eyes. And suddenly, those eyes snapped to hers. Iris jerked her gaze back to the floor, heart hammering. "Your Majesty, have you made your selection?" She felt rather than saw his attention still on her. "She'll do," he said simply. Iris stood before the massive oak door, heart pounding. Torches flickered eerily, their flames bending away from the door like they were trying to escape. "Please the king's guest, however he desires," the servant woman whispered, "or tomorrow you'll face something far worse." The guard pushed Iris into the room. It was a vast suite, the air thick with spices, flowers, and something wilder. Musk, blood, and the sharp tang of magic. A banquet spread out on a large table. Roasted meats, colorful fruits, golden candelabras casting dim light. Iris moved toward the back where thick velvet curtains hung. Pulling them back, she stopped, cold. A huge bed filled the space. The setup was clear now. She was to be used. Expected to lie with this special guest, but then a package caught her eye. A card with her name in elegant script. She unwrapped it. A gown spilled into her hands, midnight dark and shimmering with gold thread. Beautiful, horrifyingly so. The air dropped to an icy chill. A sound echoed from behind, slow, deliberate footsteps. The scrape of claws on stone. "Put it on." The voice, deep, inhuman, vibrated through her bones. Swallowing hard, she retreated behind a screen, fingers fumbling with the gown's fastenings. She found a necklace waiting, a collar of diamond stars. "Should I wear this too?" she whispered. Silence. Then closer now. "Yes." She stepped from behind the screen. "Please eat." She selected a piece of bread. The rich flavors turned to ash in her mouth. Behind her, something moved. A shadow fell across the table. "Do you like the dress?" "Yes," she managed. "Stand." Her knees wobbled as she obeyed. The creature moved forward, revealing its hand. Except it wasn't a hand, but a massive, grotesque appendage, with long fingers ending in sharp claws. "Turn around," the beast said. She did slowly. Her gaze traveled upward. Before her stood a figure too massive, too distorted for this world. Its muzzle bristled with jagged teeth, its body twisted by agony and fury. Iris's lips parted, a scream building, but instead what slipped out was, "Were you cursed?" The beast recoiled as if struck. "I'm sorry, that was presumptuous." "No, how did you know?" "I've read many stories about curses. One about a royal twisted into brambles by a jealous witch." She stopped herself. "I'm rambling." "No, go on." So she did. One tale, then another, speaking of monsters and spells, of humanity hidden beneath horror. Hours passed. The candles guttered low. "Thank you for your company," it rumbled at last. Relief flooded her. She had survived with the only thing she had. Stories. "Then will you be my wife?" Iris's breath stilled. I cannot." The beast rose, towering. "Then I have no use for you." Panic clawed at her throat, but her storyteller's mind worked faster than her fear. "I am held by those who cannot touch me, broken by those who never speak me, and kept by those who never sought me. Kings command me, but I command fate. What am I?" The beast paused. "What is this?" "A riddle. From a story I know." She lifted her chin. "If you can solve this riddle, then I will be yours. And if I cannot, then until you do, I hope you will allow me to return to tell you more stories." The creature stared at her for what felt like eternity. Then it exhaled. "Tomorrow night. Do not be late." Days melted into weeks. Nights were spent in the beast's chambers. Days filled with the duties of a castle slave. Each evening followed the same pattern. A beautiful gown awaited her. A feast was laid out. She told stories until the candles burned low. "What tale do you have for me tonight?" the beast would rumble. She would weave her stories, always careful to leave them unfinished. "And then?" he would press. "Tomorrow," she would promise. By day, her life was different. Though permitted to sleep later, by noon she was scrubbing floors, her fingers raw. The other servants avoided her. "Disease carrier," they whispered. "That's why she's still alive." Occasionally she would encounter King Thaddeus in the corridors. Sometimes he ignored her. Other times his perfect lips would curl in disgust. "Still alive, I see. My guest must have peculiar tastes." Her nights weren't pleasant, but she grew to almost enjoy them. After weeks of borrowed tales, her repertoire ran thin. "I'm not sure I have a story tonight." "You always have a story." "I could perhaps tell you one of mine." "Yours?" The beast went still. That night began a transformation in their relationship. No longer was she merely reciting tales. She was creating them, and the beast was her first true audience. He questioned plot holes, debated character motivations, suggested unexpected twists. But why would the princess trust him after he was so cruel to her? Because sometimes we see beyond what others have done to who they truly are. The beast grew quiet. "And you believe that? That people can change so fundamentally?" "I believe people can reveal who they truly were all along. Sometimes cruelty is just armor." His golden eyes studied her. "You speak as if you know something of armor yourself." She did, but she only smiled and continued her tale. Their conversations grew longer, deeper. Sometimes she would catch herself laughing at his dry observations. One night the beast surprised her. "I have something for you." He led her through a door she'd never noticed before, revealing a circular chamber lined floor to ceiling with books. A writing desk sat by the window. "A library?" Iris breathed. "For me?" "You mentioned your father wouldn't buy you books. I thought perhaps you might like to read new stories. Write your own." Tears pricked her eyes. No one had ever given her such a gift. From that night forward, their discussions became even richer. She would read during the day, and at night they would debate philosophy, dissect character arcs. "Your heroine is too forgiving," he said one evening. "No one forgives so easily." "Perhaps she's learned that holding on to anger hurts her more than the person who wronged her." "Or perhaps she's afraid of being alone again," he countered gently. She looked up, startled by his insight. "Maybe both." "Tell me about her. About why forgiveness comes so easily to someone who's been hurt." Iris set down her pages, throat tight. She was cast aside by someone who was supposed to love her. Told she was broken, worthless. When someone finally shows her kindness, she's terrified of losing it. Why was she cast aside? Her hands trembled. She couldn't give him what he wanted most, a child. She tried for 6 years, but her body, it wouldn't cooperate. So he called her defective and sent her back to her father like a broken tool. The beast's sharp intake of breath made her look up. His golden eyes blazed with something fierce. He was a fool to cast aside someone so precious for something beyond her control. Was he? Iris asked. In our world, what is a woman who can't bear pups? What purpose does she serve? What purpose? The beast rose, pacing. She tells stories that make the darkness bearable. She sees past monster to the soul within. She brings light to places that have known only shadow. Iris wiped her eyes. At least you won't want to marry me now, I imagine. Now that you know I'm truly as defective as they say. The beast whirled around. Iris, I would count myself the most fortunate creature alive if you would have me. Child or no child, you are... He stopped. You are worth more than a kingdom of queens who possess everything but your gentle heart. Heat flooded Iris's cheeks. No one had ever spoken to her with such fervor. I don't, she stammered. You don't have to say such things to be kind. I'm not being kind. I'm being honest. For perhaps the first time, Iris was happy. The castle that had seemed a prison now felt closer to a sanctuary. Only one shadow darkened her contentment. Each night came the question, will you be my wife? And each night she'd reply, I am held by those who cannot touch me, broken by those who never speak me, and kept by those who never sought me. What am I? At first she had feared the consequences. Now what truly haunted her were those intelligent golden eyes flashing with anguish at her refusal. But when she imagined saying yes, the thought of those massive, misshapen limbs entwining with hers made her stomach heave with primal terror. One morning, instead of being sent to scrub floors, Iris was led to a small chamber with a writing desk. His Majesty says you're to spend your days here now, readying yourself for your nightly duties, a servant explained. That night, Iris entered the beast's chambers, clutching pages covered in her careful script. I wrote something different tonight. May I read it to you? The beast settled across from her. Please. Her voice wavered as she began. Once there lived a girl born without a wolf. In a village where everyone could shift, she alone remained human. She paused, swallowing hard. Her father called her defective. Her sister pretended not to know her. The village children threw stones and called her half-breed. The beast remained motionless. Each night she would escape into stories, creating worlds where she belonged, where being different wasn't a curse. Those who rejected her for lacking a wolf were fools, the beast interrupted. A wolf is nothing compared to a mind that creates worlds. Iris looked up, startled. Today, for the first time, someone gave my stories value, she whispered. You asked the king, who clearly despises you, to give me time and space to write. No one has ever... Her voice broke. No one has ever seen me before. Not until you. I see nothing but you, Iris. The way he said her name sent a shiver down her spine. Will you be my wife? Iris's breath caught. Her heart raced. I am held by those who cannot touch me, broken by those who never speak me, and kept by those who never sought me. What am I? The beast met her eyes, then his shoulders drooped in defeat. Later, sleep eluded her. Iris stared into the darkness, remembering every moment before the castle, the crushing loneliness, the way her father's eyes slid past her. Then came the beast who listened to her, who'd arranged a space for her to write, who'd called her storytelling more valuable than a wolf's strength. A memory surfaced. Because sometimes we see beyond what others have done to who they truly are. Wasn't that exactly what had happened between them? She had seen beyond the monstrous exterior, and he had seen her when no one else bothered to look. Iris sat up suddenly, heart pounding. She loved him, not with cautious affection, but with soul-deep certainty, of finding someone who understood the language of her heart without translation. She had to tell him. Now. The castle corridors were silent. When she reached the beast's chambers, the guard slumped against the wall, snoring. She slipped past him. Inside, morning light had just begun to filter through the curtains. The beast lay asleep on his massive bed. She would wake him, tell him yes, be his wife. But then the first ray of sunlight streamed across the bed, and suddenly the beast's body contorted. A groan escaped him. His limbs twisted, fur receded, bones cracked and reshaped. Where the beast had been, King Thaddeus now lay, his perfect face relaxed in sleep. Without thinking, she reached out, fingers hovering just above his cheek. His eyes snapped open. For one heartbeat, he smiled at her, a genuine smile that transformed his severe features. Then awareness dawned. His gaze darted to the sunlight, back to her face. The smile died. You weren't supposed to see this, he said, voice hollow. Your Majesty, she whispered. Thaddeus sat up slowly. A witch's curse. By day, the king everyone fears. By night, the monster everyone pities. Neither form truly me. The curse will only be broken when I find a love stronger than that born for a king. Or in other words, when someone falls in love with the beast, knowing nothing of the king within. I came to say yes, Iris blurted out. I was going to accept. Enough, he cut her off. Now that you know, whatever you feel is tainted. You've seen both sides. You love a king, not a beast. But I didn't know when I decided. It doesn't matter. The king turned away. You should go. By afternoon, Iris found herself in a carriage, watching the castle recede into the distance. A year passed. Seasons changed. Flowers bloomed and withered. Iris had everything she'd once dreamed of. A quiet room with east-facing windows, a writing desk, shelves lined with books, and misery, a constant hollow ache. She wrote prolifically, filling pages with tales of cursed princes, of misunderstood beasts, of love that transcended form. But without him to question her plots, the words felt hollow. The news came on a late summer's day. You've heard, I suppose, the baker's wife asked. About the royal wedding? Iris's heart stumbled. Wedding? The Alpha King is to marry a princess, a powerful alliance. The ceremony will be held in the town square next week. The entire kingdom is invited. That night, Iris stood before her mirror and made her decision. She would go. Not to disrupt or plead, but simply to see him one last time. The morning of the wedding dawned clear and bright. Iris dressed carefully in her finest gown. By midday, the town square had transformed into a spectacle. Banners hung from every building. Garlands of flowers draped across pavilions. Iris found a place along the edge of the crowd, half hidden. The princess arrived, tall, imperious, with confident grace. Everything Iris was not. Of course he would choose such a mate. A hush fell as the royal fanfare sounded. King Thaddeus appeared, resplendent in royal blue and silver. He moved with fluid grace, head high, shoulders squared, every inch the perfect ruler. But Iris saw what others did not, the slight tension around his eyes, the careful blankness of his expression. This was her beast, the one who had listened to her stories. As Thaddeus took his place at the altar, something in Iris's chest cracked open. She knew him in a way this princess never could. She knew his wit, his capacity for gentleness, how his eyes lit up at a clever plot twist. Near her, a burly man shifted. Something about his movement seemed off, too controlled. His eyes scanned the guards, calculating. With a start, Iris realized he wasn't watching the ceremony. He was studying the security arrangements. Across the square, she spotted another man doing the same. A chill ran through her. Something was wrong. The royal officiant began the vows. Iris watched through a veil of tears as Thaddeus stood rigid. Then suddenly his gaze lifted from his bride and swept across the crowd. Their eyes met. For one heartbeat, his perfect composure shattered. Pain flashed across his features, raw and unguarded. Then, with visible effort, he tore his gaze away. Iris forced her lips into a trembling smile, hoping he understood she wished him happiness. The vows continued. The sun inched lower. The suspicious men shifted subtly, and then chaos erupted. The first screams split the air. Then came the clash of steel, the snarls of shifting wolves. "Protect His Majesty!" Guards surrounded the princess, whisking her away. But Thaddeus remained. He drew his sword. Around Iris, people shoved and pushed. Someone knocked her to the ground. Some attackers shifted. Massive wolves leapt into the fray. Royal guards transformed to meet them, but Thaddeus fought with steel alone. An archer on a nearby roof took aim at the king's unprotected back. Without thought, Iris burst from hiding. She raced across the cobblestones, colliding with Thaddeus just as the arrow whistled through the air where he had stood. They crashed to the ground together. "Iris," he breathed, meeting her eyes. "You were about to be shot." Thaddeus shoved her behind him. "Go, please." His commander appeared. "Your Majesty, the sun. You must retreat now." Iris glanced westward. The sun hung low, mere minutes from disappearing. The curse wasn't broken. A massive wolf lunged at Iris, knocking her to the ground. Teeth snapped inches from her throat. "Stand down, Your Majesty," an attacker called. "Or watch her die." Thaddeus froze, sword half raised. "My lord, the sun, you must go." "Let her go," Thaddeus commanded. The sun touched the horizon. "My king," the commander pleaded. "There's no time." Thaddeus shook him off, eyes never leaving Iris. "Take her," the attacker growled. "No," Thaddeus roared, lunging forward. The sun vanished. Thaddeus stumbled, a cry of pain torn from his throat. His sword clattered, his body contorted. Gasps and screams rose as nobles and commoners witnessed their king's transformation. His spine arched. Bones cracked. His perfect face elongated, teeth sharpening. Fur erupted across his skin. His elegant fingers curved into razor claws. The crowd recoiled in horror, but Thaddeus paid them no mind. His focus remained entirely on Iris. The beast that was Thaddeus launched himself at her captor with ferocity. No hesitation, no concern for who witnessed his form. The attacker released her, shifting to meet this threat. But he was no match. Around them, the battle paused. Even the attackers gaped. It ended quickly. The attacking Alpha lay dead. In the center of the town square stood the beast, massive, grotesque, covered in blood. He staggered. Blood seeped from a wound where an arrow had found its mark. His massive legs trembled. Iris approached without fear. "You're hurt." "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry they saw. This is my fault." The beast shook his massive head. "I don't care what they saw, what they think. As long as you're safe." Iris placed her hands on either side of his muzzle. "I love you. Beast or king, I love you." Something changed in the air. A charge like lightning. Light emanated from within him, pulsing brighter with each breath. The transformation began. Fur receding, bones shifting. Unlike his usual painful transformation, this one seemed gentler. When it finished, Thaddeus stood before her in human form, though the sun had long set. His wedding finery hung in tatters, but his body was whole. The arrow wound healed. "I don't understand," he whispered. "The curse, only when you find a love stronger than that born for a king will you be free," Iris quoted. "That's what the witch told you, isn't it? You misunderstood. It wasn't about finding someone who could love the beast more than the king. It was about you loving someone else more than you loved being king." Understanding dawned on Thaddeus's face. "When I chose to save you over preserving my secret, you showed that you loved me more than your pride," she finished. "That's what broke the curse." Around them, the crowd murmured. His commander approached cautiously. But Thaddeus saw only Iris. In the middle of the ruined wedding, he pulled her into his arms. She came willingly, her hands reaching up to frame his face. "I love you," he whispered against her hair. "Beast and king, both parts of me love you." Iris pressed closer, feeling the steady beat of his heart against hers. Two people who had seen beyond form to the truth of each other's hearts. 1 year later, the royal ballroom glittered with candlelight. Queen Iris stood at the edge of revelry, watching her mate move through the crowd. No longer did fear follow in his wake. Smiles and genuine bows greeted Alpha King Thaddeus. So much had changed. The castle now opened its doors to all. The servants no longer cowered. The hierarchy that had kept humans beneath wolves had dissolved. After the wedding day revelation, many truths had come to light. He had never been truly cruel, merely desperate to keep his curse hidden. And then there was the miracle. 3 months after their wedding, she had felt the first flutter of life within her womb. The physicians had been baffled. The same woman, pronounced barren, now carried not one, but 2 healthy babes. The prince and princess now slept peacefully in the royal nursery. Iris liked to think it was love that had worked the miracle. Her husband had married her, knowing she might never give him an heir. Perhaps that kind of love, pure, unconditional, transformative, had been powerful enough to heal what everyone believed was permanently broken. Iris neared her husband, overhearing his conversation with a visiting diplomat. "A riddle, Your Majesty. They say you're quite skilled at them. I am held by those who cannot touch me, broken by those who never speak me, and kept by those who never sought me. Kings command me, but I command fate.